Hey Mexicans, welcome back to this new video where today we're going to be reacting to apparently a fake AI that Microsoft made. Henry had some interest in this and I was kind of curious too, so of course we're going to be reacting to it. Here with me is Henry because we're in the beginning of the stream where I think most of these are just going to be Henry, but there will be some maybe Raymond eventually later. Ethan's busy going to Carthage, so not yet anyway. But yeah, anyway, we will begin with this one.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates, chairman of Microsoft. In this video, you're going to see the future.
What is this now?
Alright, it's 2009. Pigs are flying, everything has this aesthetic, and Microsoft has just announced a groundbreaking new piece of tech at E3. Utilizing the latest advancements in motion capture, Project Natal, as it was initially named, was a new device for the Xbox that aimed to win audiences over with pure wow factor.
Oh, that's the Kinect.
The main goal of Natal was to bring families into the gaming equation by taking controllers out of it. And this resulted in an intuitive, get-up-and-play experience that made it easy for any demographic to play and enjoy.
The Wii was more
For
successful,
2009,
by the way.
it was pretty damn impressive, and in the eyes of many consumers, it made Sony and Nintendo's motion tech look kind of obsolete. But that night at E3, Microsoft would manage to continue the hype train. You see, after the unveiling of Project Natal, another speaker would take the stage to present a tech demo for Microsoft's new hardware.
You know, I want to just say one thing to you, and that's the word interactive.
That's Peter Molyneux, game designer for the Fable series and former creative director at Microsoft. And what he's about to share with this audience at E3 will echo in eternity as one of the most intentionally deceitful unveilings in Microsoft's history. In his presentation, Peter claims to have developed an experience with Natal that he thinks will fulfill every gamer's lifelong dream. To build an innocent yet intimate relationship with a 10-year-old boy.
Huh? What?
I'm
That's a
kinda
little.
confused now.
That's a little sauce.
Oh wait, what? Oh, you guys just wanted Fable 3? Oh shit. In the demo, Peter introduces us to Project Milo, a game about a boy that can supposedly see you, hear you, and actually get to know you through the screen.
Hi, I'm Milo. How you doing?
Hi Claire, you okay?
By making use of the Natal hardware, Peter demonstrates how players can seemingly interact with Milo through free-flowing conversations, giving the impression that the character on screen is somehow capable of independent thought.
Here we're seeing Claire being recognized, and the emotion in Claire's voice being recognized.
So this is supposed to be like an early AI thing or something. Apparently. I don't know about all that, but...
And that emotion reflecting in Milo's face. Those are all being seen for the first time.
At first glance, it looks quite impressive. Yet the way Peter describes it, you'd think his team had just stumbled on the means to creating sentient AI. And something tells me that's kind of what he wanted us to think.
I don't think so, because AI was AI didn't go mainstream until like 2022, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is just wrong.
What's worse is that one look back at the comments section for this presentation proves that we bought right in. Of course, there were skeptics, but for the majority, people really thought Milo was a game changer. Literally. I mean, audiences were more excited for this.
Technically, it's more possible to do this now because we got actual AI now. I think people have actually done shit like that, too, at this point. And I mean, the concept of the Amazing Digital Circus is creative AI. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That one doesn't make as much sense because, I mean, it was created in the 90s, so I don't know about all that, but you know.
Game than the actual hardware it was demoed for. Not to mention the potential this kind of AI had for countless genres in the industry. The problem? It was all complete bullshit. The demo was fake, the actor was acting, and Peter was essentially lying through his teeth. Or was he? No, I'm just kidding, he was. He totally was. And this was most certainly not the first time either.
If he wasn't lying, AI would be much different today, by the way.
You see, Peter was notorious throughout the industry for overpromising, exaggerating, and flat-out lying about upcoming games. I mean, you could probably score the rest of this video with the flight of the bumblebee, and it would match the tone for the level of chaos this man has caused. But Milo? Milo was his magnum opus, a lie so deceitful that it crossed the point of outrage to just actually being kind of impressive. By utilizing his arsenal of clever word choice alongside demo footage that mainly consisted of smoke and mirrors, Peter managed to convince an entire generation of gamers that he had developed a technology 50 years ahead of its time. What would ensue was a roller coaster ride of PR shenanigans, miscommunication, backpedaling, and deception that would ultimately amount to nothing. But to understand how this happened in the first place, we need to take a look back at the man himself. Peter. Oh, Peter. After founding Bullfrog Productions in 1987,
this motherfucker probably got fired
headfirst
eventually.
into game design with a focus on population sims. You know the ones, those top-down games with disembodied hands that control everything in the game world?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Honestly low-key forgot about those games. I remembered they exist. I just didn't remember them for too long.
These concepts were fascinating to Peter, and ultimately became the stage that allowed his knack for ideation to really shine. What if you were the owner of a theme park, the keeper of a dungeon, or the shine? What if you were the owner of a theme park?
Theme Park Tycoon 2. Except 2D.
The keeper of a dungeon, or the deity in charge of an entire island. Peter's games put the player in complete control, which ultimately helped redefine the scope for what games could actually be about, and usually with outstanding results. Throughout his time at Bullfrog, Peter would
imagine if GTA 6 actually gave us an option for where the story can go, but not just relegated to the 3 endings of GTA 6. I mean GTA 5. I'm more or less talking about within the story itself. We can just pick our own paths in the story itself. Which decisions do we want to make on each mission? You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I would love to see something like that happen for GTA 6, man. Because, I mean, GTA 5's story was interesting, but it wasn't, enough.
Yeah.
Bounds within the simulation space, known well for his early adoption of artificial intelligence and his invention of the God game genre.
Artificial intelligence didn't become mainstream until again 2022. I know it was being developed at this time, but I know it wasn't ready. For good reason.
This would eventually lead their longtime publisher, Electronic Arts, to acquire the company in 1995.
Damn EA, bro.
Unfortunately, EA's acquisition changed the way Bullfrog developed games, and Peter, who was unsatisfied with the changes, left the studio in '97 to pursue a new venture. This would ultimately lead Milo to found Lionhead Studios, with a handful of other ex-Bullfroggers. From there, Peter would spend a sizable chunk of money from the Bullfrog deal, investing over $6 million into Lionhead's first game. After 3 years of development, Black and White released in March of 2001 and was met with widespread critical acclaim. The game was praised heavily for its accomplishments in artificial intelligence, even appearing in the 2003 Guinness World Records for having the most intelligent being in a game. These accomplishments were what ultimately solidified Peter's belief in AI, inspiring him and his team to pursue further research on the
Yeah, I don't know about all that
topic. So, that same year, Peter would officially launch a research project. The goal of their efforts was to develop a game that was smarter than anything ever seen on the market. A game that, years from now, would eventually become Milo. But until then, Peter would codename his venture Project Dimitri.
Dimitri.
You see, Peter loved code names and had a quirk of introducing and changing these names every time he spoke to journalists. Throughout his career, there was Project Dimitri, Project Ego, Project X, Project Milo. I mean, for a guy that couldn't keep his mouth shut in front of journalists, he sure did love secrets. And this problem had certainly become evident throughout his career. Up until this point, Peter had already begun developing a reputation for himself as somewhat of an overpromiser, notorious for making outlandish claims about features that would be included in upcoming games. Peter would later confess to even making up new features on the spot just to keep journalists interested.
Fool.
And that problem would only grow worse when his company released Fable in 2004.
Ah, damn Fable.
To build excitement for the game, Peter would make all sorts of false promises for Fable, which ultimately ended up hurting the game's reception among fans. To give you a better idea of what I mean...
This is why you don't make fake promises only for them not to be in the game. I mean, seriously. You can ask Apple, really. Like, Apple Intelligence, while eventually happening in iOS 27, when it was, like, when the fucking iPhone 16 was first released, it just didn't, it just wasn't, it was advertised to be on the phone, but when Apple Intelligence actually, like, started to come out, it wasn't even complete. And I mean, now iOS 27 has it, but you gotta realize, false promises make things really bad. It did also lead to a lawsuit, by the way. So yeah.
Here's just a few. 1. Peter said that Fable would be a completely open world with zero invisible boundaries. 2. Peter said you could have children who take over as the playable character if you die in the game.
I don't know about all that, buddy.
3. Peter said you could plant a tree and watch it grow to fruition in real time.
I don't know about all that either.
And so on. Of course, none of these
Imagine if GTA 6 had that feature.
promises actually made it into the game, and probably caused most of his development team to slam their heads through drywall.
Now, imagine if it actually did.
The worst part was that Fable was a good game that just happened to fall flat because of heightened expectations. Some may write this behavior off as a passionate game designer getting overly excited about his game, but no matter how you twist it, Peter's big mouth was just plain unprofessional, and it was starting to affect his reputation. After Microsoft acquired Lionhead in 2005, the suits would attempt to remedy this issue by keeping a PR team around Peter at all times. This
I would have just fucking got rid of Peter. But, you know.
was done to ensure he didn't get himself into any more trouble.
Yeah, these nasty PR policemen that are all around me as we speak.
I'm not allowed to talk about the PR guards that are standing at the back, shooting daggers with their eyes.
Obviously, I can't answer questions like that because I would get killed for if I announced, yeah.
By now you're probably wondering, well, how does Milo fit into all this? And you'd be right to ask that. Well, sometime in 2007, after many years of experimenting, Peter had finally found some direction for Project Dimitri. For roughly 6 years, Lionhead's research into AI game systems had never actually resulted in a full game. Sure, many of their advancements made it into other games as features, but nothing quite managed to harness all of their efforts into one single title. And now, with pressure from Microsoft to actually return results, Peter needed to finally turn his passion project into profit. So, in 2007, Peter pitched a brand new idea to his associate Gary Carr, who was then an executive producer at Microsoft. This new idea would build upon everything the team had worked on with Project Dimitri, but under a completely new name. You see, by 2007, codename Dimitri was kind of a bad word around Lionhead, and had become somewhat synonymous with failure. So, in order to improve morale regarding the project, Peter would codename their new venture Milo. named after the game's protagonist.
I really think Milo Murphy is the better Milo, bro.
Development for Project Milo officially began in 2007 as a sort of simulation centered around the life of one individual. This, of course, took Peter's usual formula of population-based sims and flipped it on its head. Instead of a simulation involving multiple people, Project Milo would be about just one, a boy, and your actions in the game would determine who Milo grew up to be. It was basically a glorified parenting sim, except instead of taking the role of an actual parent, you were more of a friend, or mentor, or slave?
Slave?
I mean, the first prototype literally just had you doing Milo's chores, and from what I've learned, it didn't sound incredibly impressive. But, according to Peter, Project Milo was utilizing an impressive display of AI technology, combining advancements made with Project Dimitri alongside
I don't know about all that, as I said.
Microsoft's own research. It was something Peter felt incredibly proud of, leading him to suggest in an interview that their achievements could eventually find them on the front page of Science magazine. An important thing to note, though, was that until this point, Project Milo was strictly being developed for use with a controller, and there was absolutely no knowledge of Project Natal up to this point. That was until 2008, when one of Peter's associates at Microsoft spilled the beans. Turns out, a group of Microsoft engineers had been working closely with an Israeli tech company to bring motion-sensing hardware to the Xbox 360. This technology was first introduced to the world at the 2006 Game Developers Conference by a company called PrimeSense. At the convention, PrimeSense revealed a revolutionary new device capable of sensing and mapping human bodies in real time. At this point, the tech was still in its early stages, but it showed promise, which was illustrated through PrimeSense's earliest concept videos. And while many of these demonstrations looked impressive, the production quality was a bit more akin to a Tim and Eric sketch.
So, what was the name of that movie you told me you wanted to see the other day?
This is what the Apple Vision Pro became at some point, by the way.
How about that one? I have to order pizza.
I don't really like the Apple Vision Pro, but this idea was very interesting too.
Oh.
Hi, how are you?
Hey Greg, how you doing? I'm gonna have to call you back tomorrow night.
Okay, bye.
Night.
As cheesy as these demos were, the concept most certainly caught the attention of Microsoft, and especially Peter Molyneux. This would lead Peter to completely rework Project Milo to incorporate this new hardware, which Microsoft had codenamed Project Natal. Peter now envisioned a game where players could actually speak to Milo through Natal, and Milo would, ideally, respond back.
Yeah, you'd think.
Microsoft ran with it, and for roughly the next year and a half, Lionhead would double the size of their team to help steer Project Milo in this new direction. This would set off the chain of events that would eventually lead to Peter's infamous demo at E3-09.
Project Milo was probably a massive failure. Oh wait, yeah, it was.
Contrary to popular belief, Project Milo was not entirely a hoax. As misleading as it was, the video Peter showed at E3 was technically not a complete fabrication, because Lionhead was really working on a real game. And after the incorporation of Project Natal, Milo was actually capable of a handful of impressive feats. He could understand over 500 unique words, recognize
500.
the color of your clothing, and even interpret the tone of your voice. This was all real technology that the Lionhead team was working on, and it was all really being done with Project Natal. The problem? It was still pretty janky.
This came too fucking early, bro.
Developers who worked on the project admitted that it was a challenge to demonstrate the game live, and players could very easily break the illusion of Milo's sentience if they wished to do so. What made this situation more dire was the fact that later that year, Project Milo was set to be unveiled at E3 alongside Natal. So, how would they do it? Well, they'd stage it, of course. I mean, was it really that big of a lie as long as the game was actually being developed? Well,
no.
yes, especially when you consider the way the demo was fabricated. Just a few weeks before E3, Lionhead would hire an actress to help stage their presentation, and worked with a film crew to produce it. And look, staging certain aspects of a technology for the purposes of ensuring a smooth presentation is maybe arguably one thing. But the creative liberties that were taken with Milo's demo made implications that grossly exaggerated the capabilities of the actual product.
Look, staging is one thing, but making it look real is another thing. That's the issue. I've seen many companies stage shit. It's not new. But if you do, but you have to have a certain level where it just doesn't overcomplicate things, you know?
And this was the factor that ultimately landed Peter in such hot water. Now, let's jump back to E3 2009, where Microsoft has just finished unveiling Project Natal for the first time. The tech is impressive, and kind of steals the show from Sony, who unveiled a wand-based version of their own motion tech the same night.
That racket
I like Magic Wand.
is actually in the virtual world. It's in Anton's hand.
Next to take the stage is Peter, who I can only assume is engaged in some sort of weird pre-show ritual behind the curtains, very a la Joker. I mean, you gotta be a little crazy to pull a stunt like this in front of the entire gaming industry. So, Peter makes his presentation and introduces Milo to the world.
Hi, Milo. How you doing?
Hi, Claire. You okay?
Actually, I'm a bit nervous.
You? Nervous? I don't believe it.
On first watch, the video actually looks pretty convincing. But as we come to find, Peter is using a mix of both deceptive gameplay footage and clever language to mislead the viewer. The interactions presented in the video make the implication that players can have complex, free-flowing conversations with Milo, and
that's just not true.
Form deep personal relationships with him.
Listen, I was thinking today you should let me beat you at football again. That is if you finished your homework. You have finished your school project.
What happened there is that Claire knew Milo so well, she knew when he was worried about something.
Of course, as you can probably tell, this entire interaction is scripted. There's even moments in the video where Milo appears to remember seemingly impressive details about the actress's personal life.
Science fiction is not even written about.
Don't forget your mum's birthday.
Did you catch that? Apparently Milo just on a whim remembered Claire's mom's birthday, which once again tries to reinforce the idea that the two actually have a relationship.
I don't know about all that, bro.
Later on in the video, Milo leads Claire to a pond where Natal's capabilities for motion capture are shown off a little bit. Yet, for some reason, even a basic minigame like this was faked. Upon closer inspection, you'll realize that Claire's movements are not entirely in sync with her reflection. For one reason or another, this entirely pre-rendered scene has the actress superimposed into the reflection of the water, forcing Claire to memorize her original movements and attempt to perform them in sync with the footage on screen. This obviously leads to errors, and quickly becomes Exhibit A for many skeptics trying to debunk the video later on. But what proves to be one of the most glaring oversights of the whole video is actually a matter of perspective. Let me explain. When you're viewing any sort of portrait from your viewpoint, the subject of your gaze appears to follow you wherever you move around the room. It's why paintings like the Mona Lisa seem to always be watching you even if you change where you're standing. So why isn't Milo doing that? Yes, he's looking at Claire, but we're not looking from Claire's perspective. This is, of course, once again, because the entire video was fabricated.
Well, yeah, of course.
When the Lionhead team was putting together this demo, they found that Milo's natural line of vision would be directed towards the camera, ultimately ruining the immersion they wanted to create between Milo and Claire. So, they faked it, and in a blatant rejection for the laws of perspective, the team re-rigged Milo to look slightly to the side to look at Claire.
That's not how screens work, though. That's the issue.
As you can probably tell so far, practically none of the aspects of the video were actually real. Shocker, I know.
Yeah.
And even if certain footage represented aspects of the game that did work, it was far easier to just fake the whole thing.
I mean, look, if I look to the left right now, the perspective literally stays the same, bro. If I look to the right, it's the same way.
For example, towards the end of the presentation, Claire would draw a picture of a fish and hold it up to the camera. Milo would then supposedly pull the image into the game world and look at it himself.
I don't know about all that.
And funnily enough, this tech actually did work in a live demo setting. Turns out Milo had an incredible knack for recognizing drawings through the Natal camera, and even learned to identify specific
Okay, well that one makes a bit more sense.
Objects through machine learning. It was actually one of the things Milo was best at, and there was even talk of improving the tech so that Milo could learn to identify new drawings as you showed them to him. Of course, the reins were pulled back on this to avoid making Milo an expert on identifying crudely drawn penises. But the take home here is that...
Well... Yeah, okay, fair enough.
It did actually work. So, in summary, what Peter essentially showed the audience that night was a demo of a game that did technically exist, but the format in which they chose to present that game took way more creative liberties than it ever should have. And what did that result in? Possibly the most misled outpouring of enthusiasm a game has ever seen, apart from a few other titles. People were losing their minds about this game. I mean, if Milo was really as true to life as Peter had claimed, then this would have massive implications not only for gaming itself, but technology as a whole. If only it were true.
Yeah, again, as I said, AI didn't become mainstream until 2022. I keep repeating the point, but it's important.
Later that night, after the E3 press conference, a select group of journalists were picked to actually meet Milo and demo the project for themselves. And this is where things started to take a bit of a turn. While the demo was impressive, many playtesters would quickly come to see through the smoke and mirror tricks used to give Milo the illusion of sentience.
Bruh.
For example, Milo could understand words, but only certain ones, and those words had to be given within the correct context to be understood in the first place.
This is why you don't give a fucking illusion demo to fucking journalists, bro. They know what they're talking about.
If you asked Milo something yourself and he didn't understand, his code would prompt him to either politely nod or shake his head, which made many attempts at communication just kind of fall flat. If you tried to tell him a joke, sometimes Milo could read the tone of your voice and interpret it as such, emitting a laugh. Of course, Milo didn't actually get the joke and wouldn't comment on it in any way, but it was part of the illusion the game tried to convey. Most journalists remarked on how if you played Milo by the rules, you could actually have half-decent conversations with him. But any, and I mean any attempt to go off script would immediately poke holes in the illusion.
This is why you don't fucking make an illusion in the first place. Oh my god.
But the journalists' impressions didn't really do much to quell the excitement for the game. Just like any hype train, once it gets going, it's kind of hard to stop.
Damn, bro.
So, E3 2009 ends, and Microsoft is swarmed with enthusiastic journalists chomping at the bit for details about Milo and Project Natal. And the excitement is palpable.
So, tell me more about your role with Project Natal.
So I'm essentially the technical director for the technologies that you saw. So from our perspective, the inspiration really was, could we
Damn, okay.
actually incorporate
I don't think the woman likes doing
the
that.
human into the gameplay so that we could create a system whereby...
Of course, Peter does a few interviews as well, and you can rest assured his PR team is standing just outside the frame.
What is the objective?
Well, I could, you know what, I would love to tell you that. I could completely tell you. I could go through the story. There's, an amazing story. But I have given myself a rule that I will not talk about things unless I can show them. But it is definitely a game.
When asked if players can expect a release date for Project Milo, Peter ensures that development is in full swing, and while a release date cannot be given, the game is most certainly expected to be brought to market.
It's not happening, cuz.
Strangely enough, that would be the last time we'd hear of Milo for a very long time.
Is Milo even still being worked on at that point, bro?
The following year, E3 2010 would come and go without so much as a word from Milo, and fans definitely had some questions. But this time, they got different answers.
He's, the Milo project was something that Lionhead Studios in their labs had developed, and obviously that's a tech demo and technology that continues to exist, but right now it's not a game that we're planning to bring to market.
That was Aaron Greenberg, a PR executive for Microsoft, who made that statement sometime in 2010. Shortly after that, Peter would go on record to quite condescendingly denounce Aaron's statements.
So the question is Milo being worked on or not being worked on? That's an issue.
Weird era in the game's development where, depending on who you asked at Microsoft, your answer on Project Milo was completely different.
That's an
Behind
issue.
the scenes, Peter was in a sort of power struggle with the higher-ups at Microsoft. After roughly 3 years in development, Project Milo, now called Milo and Kate, was failing to meet the expectations Microsoft had in place for the title. And it definitely didn't help that Peter had wildly raised those expectations back in 2009. Worse still, Microsoft had significantly pulled back on Project Natal's hardware capabilities, attempting to cut costs by downgrading the device's processor, which subsequently narrowed the scope for Project Milo. Fast forward to mid-2010, and fans are wondering when and if they'll ever get an update on Milo's development.
You're not getting shit, bro.
And finally, after over a year of anticipation, Peter would eventually break his silence on the project.
Finally.
This update would come in the form of a TED Talk, which was already a really, really bad sign.
Oh, okay. If it's coming from a TED Talk, the fucking project is just canceled, bro. It's not happening.
If Microsoft actually had realistic plans to release Milo, they would have announced it at E3 2010 earlier that year. But clearly the game's release had reached a level of uncertainty that could no longer justify a feature at the event. So instead, Peter opts to quietly demo the game at TED Global, in what could be seen as one of the most egregious attempts at backpedaling I have ever seen. I mean, what Peter demonstrates to the crowd at TED Global is almost a completely different game from what he showed fans the year before. And the way he introduces it just makes it all the worse.
So, a year ago, I showed this off at a computer show called E3.
Really, Peter? A computer show? This comment was either a sign that Peter was getting old, or rather a feeble attempt to avoid mentioning the word video game to what I can only assume is a slightly older audience.
Dumbass for even doing a TED Talk about it in the first place. Oh my god.
This was a piece of technology. It was someone called Claire interacting with this boy. And there was a huge row online about, hey, this can't be real. And so I waited till now to have an actual demo of the real tech.
So this wasn't real in the first one, okay.
Wow. Peter the Brain Molyneux has done it again. Who knew this was his plan the whole time? No way this was some sort of half-baked attempt to backtrack on false promises made for a game that was built on misleading footage and blatant lies. It was just a primer to get us excited for the actual game. Okay,
no,
but really,
it's not, bro.
Though, have you ever witnessed a more blatant admission of guilt? I mean, he literally comes out and says this is the actual demo of the real tech. At this point, he's not even trying to hide that the game was a lie. And then he has the audacity to try and put a bow on the whole thing by pinpointing his team's one sole goal.
Just to get to this one simple idea, to create a real living being.
Yeah, at this point, I don't even trust them anymore. Good luck with that,
computer.
Bro.
Oh yeah, Peter? That one simple idea? You mean the idea that modern technology hasn't even come close to cracking? The idea that could one day lead to technological singularity?
I'm pretty sure this shit is even better now.
Singularity subsequently blurring the definition of what it actually means to be human? And you found that on the Xbox 360? Listen, I've really tried to cut Peter some slack in this video, but the way he talks about creating Milo like he's some sort of 21st century Geppetto is just really, really annoying.
This isn't even, you can't even cut him slack. Like, remember, as I said, AI didn't become mainstream until 2022. And conversational shit didn't happen until later on. Gemini and ChatGPT all have fucking conversational models that can do what Milo has been promised to do years ago. But it's obvious, because of the fact that this whole thing was blatantly a lie, it definitely didn't come into fruition. It wouldn't have been possible for it to come to fruition. Gemini and ChatGPT exist now, so maybe, but still. Over-promising. Like, too much.
He still tries to redeem himself with what appears to be some newfound attempt at transparency.
Now, I'll be honest with you and say that most of it is just a trick.
Wow, I couldn't ever fucking guess. Holy dumbass.
Wow. There's a reason I'm spending so much time on this intro. I mean, with every sentence, Peter just finds a way to dig himself into a deeper hole, and
You're contradicting literally everything.
Just keeps getting funnier.
So why don't we go over and have a look at the demo now. Okay. This is Dimitri.
I bet after this TED Talk, nobody's excited for it anymore. They just fucking hate it.
Wait, this is Dimitri? Like, the Project Dimitri? Turns out this part isn't a lie. Apparently, the original project was named after his godson the whole time, who actually worked at Lionhead on the...
What?
Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot to mute myself because here's the thing. I was asking one of my friends to add me on Discord, but apparently this Roblox says, "Oh wait, this guy just said Discord." They didn't even give me a warning.
Oh damn, that sucks.
Fable games. Who knew?
No, my bad.
Now comes the actual demo, the honest demo, and there's one key difference right off the bat. It appears as though, this time, we have a real person playing the game live. Finally, the curtains have been drawn back, and we can see some real gameplay for the first time.
And it's gonna be disappointing.
Let's check it out.
So, he's discovering the garden, you're helping him discover the garden by just pointing out these snails.
Huh?
So, the demo finally begins, and what we appear to get is some sort of on-rails snail spotting simulator. It's a bizarre way to start, especially considering the bold claims Peter made about Milo in the intro. As the camera rolls along, Milo finds another snail on the ground, at which point Milo encounters his first test of morality. Turns out Milo has a thirst for blood and sadism, and toys with the idea of squishing the snail underneath his shoe. At this point, Dimitri is prompted to use voice commands to either encourage Milo's behavior or stop him.
Do you want Milo to squash it? When you see the microphone, say yes.
Squash.
No.
Go on, Milo, squash it.
No, that's the right thing to do. No, that's the right thing to do.
Well, that was unexpected. But what doesn't come as a surprise is how the voice recognition system has changed. You'll notice that in this new demo, there are explicit prompts for when you can actually speak to Milo. Of course, this wildly contradicts Peter's first demo of the game, in which it's heavily implied that speech is free-flowing and spontaneous.
Yeah. That's crazy.
At this point, the presentation continues for another 6 or 7 minutes, where Peter demos a handful...
Not the meme, by the way. Don't react. Not the meme.
...of other incredibly boring minigames. But what makes it funny is how these demonstrations are
This was 3 years ago, so this was way before the meme.
Accompanied by long-winded boasts of how the game is so much more sophisticated than it actually looks.
His face, by the way, is fully AI-driven. We have complete control over his blush responses.
No! Stop falsely advertising, bro.
The diameter of his nostrils. His mind is based in the cloud. If you're leaning forward, he would slightly change the neuro-linguistic nature of his face.
What the fuck?
Actually sculpting a human being here. We've got a database of words which we recognize, we pick those words out, we also...
You can bring back this project now that actual AI exists, but the issue is you fucking distrusted everyone with this blatant lie.
We also reference that with his the Tonation database.
In all honesty, I would imagine the audience was bored to death by this presentation. After 3 years in development, the game just looks so incredibly underwhelming. And
I would have left after seeing that. Or literally in the middle of it, I would just left.
One can come to understand why Microsoft felt the same way.
I wouldn't have wanted to stick to that TED Talk, bro.
This is also made evident by the presentation's view count, which is dwarfed in comparison to the millions of views garnered by the first demo.
I also probably could imagine that the dislike count of that one is probably high.
So it may come as no surprise to learn that shortly after this presentation was made, Microsoft would permanently shut down development for Milo and Kate.
Honestly, thank God.
This was of course due to a multitude of different factors, and can't be simply attributed to one reason. Speculation points toward the fact that Milo was being developed during a time when the Kinect was still trying to understand its target audience. As the project evolved, Microsoft would opt to target demographics engaged in party settings, which kind of put Milo's mellow, single-player gameplay into an awkward category. It's also fair to speculate that Microsoft closed development due to false expectations surrounding the game, which were set so high by Peter's outlandish claims. Whatever the reasons, the news came as a devastating blow to the Lionhead team, who were all incredibly excited about what they had built up to that point. Regardless of Peter's lies, Project Milo really utilized state-of-the-art technology that resulted in many impressive features. There was formidable voice, image, and even emotional recognition that genuinely would have held weight as impressive features for its time. So it came as even more of a disappointment when the team was forced to recycle all of their progress into a watered-down spin-off for the Fable series. The way Microsoft saw it, they weren't going to let 3 years of technological development fall through the cracks without making a little cash, so much of Lionhead's research ended up being reworked into a new Kinect game set in the Fable universe. Suddenly, Milo's emotional recognition was being repurposed so players could develop bonds with in-game horses, and Milo's hand tracking became the foundation for casting spells. It definitely wasn't the kind of closure the Lionhead team wanted for Milo, but
this is fucking disgusting, bro.
At least it was actually released. Unfortunately, Fable: The Journey was received poorly for the Kinect, with its main failing point boiling down to, you guessed it, false expectations. Initially, Peter Molyneux swore up and down that the game would not be an on-rails experience, but upon release, fans would come to find that exploration within the game was entirely linear, and players were certainly not happy. After Fable's failure on Kinect in 2012, Peter would leave Lionhead permanently to pursue yet another independent venture.
Never mind.
Due to reasons most likely pertaining to Milo's cancellation, Peter felt as though Microsoft's hold on Lionhead was becoming too much of a creative barrier, and was disheartened with the company's decision to can the project. Peter would then go on to found his third new company in the gaming industry, 22 Cans.
Go away, bro. Just go away. You're like a roach that keeps infecting everywhere you go.
Unsurprisingly though, Peter's new venture would fall prey to much of the same behavior that he was known for previously, with a sequence of scandals and false promises that would continue as a result of his presence in the media. It seems like no matter what team he was a part of, Peter was always finding ways of getting himself into trouble. As for Milo, well, it's been almost 10 years since anyone has spoken about him. Many ex-Lionhead members went on to call the project filler, or a tech demo that accidentally wound up in production. And some at Microsoft deny it was ever a game in the first place.
Except that actually it was.
In 2012, Peter was asked about his thoughts on Microsoft's decision to cancel Milo, and in a brazen attempt to deflect all blame, claimed that he felt the industry just wasn't ready for it.
Sure.
Somehow, Peter had convinced himself that Project Milo was just too ahead of its time to be brought to market, And
it was your fault.
I guess if you consider all the lies he made about the game, then yeah, he was right. At the end of the day, it's kind of a shame. If Peter had just focused more on what was possible with Milo instead of what could be possible, we might have actually seen the game released. And who knows, it might have been half decent. But the truth was, Milo's technical capabilities just weren't advanced enough to meet the expectations put in place for the project, and the ideas that actually made Milo exciting just weren't ready to be made a reality.
Why does that look like the fucking mannequin from the Amazing Digital Circus?
That actually made Milo
That's crazy.
Exciting just weren't ready to be made a reality. But now, with breakthroughs in artificial intelligence occurring every other day,
you see, now it's possible.
We may not have to wait too long before we see another company take a crack at the idea. Let's just hope that, unlike Peter, they've got the proof to back it up. Thanks for watching.
It's actually possible now, but the issue is it's not gonna exactly be the same thing. But, you know, it actually has some potential for it to be possible in the modern day. But anyway, with that false promise being said, that ends this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do not make false promises like this motherfucker.
And before the stream ends, you better subscribe to Mr. Alex here. If you don't, I'm gonna find you.
And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.